The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is an interesting one. So, Sean Porter wants the Terrence Crawford fight, but Bob Arum won't budge on his $1 million offer. Bob Arum's quoted as saying that, that's his offer. It is what it is. They can try to work out something on like percentage or gate, but he's not trying to lose any money. And as you know, it's been rumored that Keith Thurman wanted 10 million to fight Terrence Crawford, and he priced himself out of the game. So Keith Thurman actually responded once he found out the news about the offer to Sean Porter. And here's what he had to say.
Bob, you know what's up. You know I never asked for anything. It ain't my fault. You can't afford a great fight, okay? You cheap as shit. You can barely pay your own fighters good money, okay? That ain't my fault. You got ESPN backing you. You got Terrence Crawford, one of the most talented welterweights in the welterweight division, and you can't get him paid. You can't make him famous enough. You got Max Kellerman sipping on all the Crawford juice, and I love Crawford too. He's a great fighter, since the amateurs. I love that boy. I love all my peers, because we the real ones. We the real ones. Bob, what did $2 million buy you your last fight? A bullshit ass fight? Come on now. Come on now, Bob. Okay? I speak that realness. Thurman ain't no punk. All right? You don't knock me in the ropes, watch me curl up like a dog, fight's over. When was Thurman ever fight over? All right? Knocked down, body shot, fought with injuries, hurt hands, hurt elbows. Me and Sean Porter were Showtime's Fight of the Year. Me and Danny Garcia was a great fight. I fought him with bone spurs. Me and Pacquiao was a very exciting fight. I fought him almost one-handed. Okay? And now you mad because the PBC opponents, you can't afford a PBC fighter. You can't afford us, Bob. I'm sorry. All right? You cheap. You want fucking discounts. I know it's COVID. I know it's hard out here in the streets. We all feel it. We all know it. You know what I'm saying? But you ain't going to get me on no discount. You ain't going to pay no full price, but you ain't getting no discount. Look, Bob, stop talking shit. All right? Stop talking shit. You're a horrible fucking promoter. You got all this talent. You can't do shit with it. All right? PBC, we make money together, baby. We do it all together. All right? You wouldn't have a dime in the bank account if it wasn't for all the Mexicans and Africans and Filipinos and all the other ethnicities that you've ever worked with throughout your whole career. All right? And then you don't want to pay people? This is world-class boxing. You can't afford a world-class fight. You got ESPN backing you. They don't got no money, Bob. They don't got no money. Man, look. Stop talking shit. All right? Ain't going to be no fight. You can't afford it. All right? You offer Sean Porter $1 million. What's $1 million after taxes? $600,000? Man, get the fuck out of our face, Bob. Get the fuck out of our faces. All right? You can barely help Terrence Crawford make any real money. He's one of the best fighters you've had for years. Years. You can't make no money. Man, look, man. I don't need no $10 million, but I need some respect, and the respect come in the check. All right? The respect come in the check. Ain't my fault that I'm an opponent and I'm worth more money than your champion, your undefeated welterweight champion. That ain't my fault. That's your fault, Bob. That's your fault, Bob. That's evidence of you doing a shitty-ass job, Bob. Okay? Man, stop talking shit, Bob. All right? Terrence Crawford wanted to fight me last year. Okay? Terrence Crawford wants to fight Sean Porter. Terrence Crawford wants to fight Keith Thurman. Terrence Crawford wants a great fight. Your fucking promoter can't afford it, Terrence. All right? He can't put a good show for you. There's no good show. You know? That's right, man. Fuck Bob.
So Trill Dollar Bill, what's your thoughts and what's your reaction to what my man Keith Thurman had to say?
I'm not mad at Keith. Bop.
Bob.
Bop. I'm not mad at Keith. Everything he said was is the way that a lot of us felt. You know, he put in Bob Arum then said that himself out of his own mouth. He's not putting up no bread. You know what I'm saying? So, TC got to make some decisions. If it's true what Keith Thurman is saying, you know what I'm saying, and he really want these fights, then TC got to do what's best for TC. And that's probably going over there to PBC, where he can be compensated. You know, he's a prize fighter, so he can be compensated for these fights. Because you're trying to lowball these other fights, Bob, is not going to happen. You're trying to lowball these other fighters, Bob, is not going to happen. If you're trying to make it so that, you know, TC gets a certain amount and then you can, you know, shortchange these guys that been fighting each other and got their own fan base and have their own numbers and they do their own thing, it's not going to happen, Bob. So it's going to, I think, not so much on Bob, because Bob's been saying, he said it on national television. You know what I'm saying? Like, he said that he done lost money on fights with TC.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he gonna put any more money into it? You know what I'm saying? So he said it himself. Then it's on TC, I think. Not so much of Bob. Bob already said it. It's on TC to me now. You know what I'm saying? Bob showed you what he thought you was worth. You don't want to do the fight he wants. He wants the Earl fight. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have a miscommunication or somewhere. I don't know. But what Bob wants to do and what you want to do is something totally different. Y'all can't get on the same page. Why let any time go by in TC and let you get any more rust and go and do anything? It's time for you to make the decision. I heard a rumor or something that he's not even really, the contract with him and Bob is almost up.
It's almost up. It's up this year.
It's up this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that TC really needs to really, if he really wants these fights like Keith Thurman says it, then he needs to make his next move his best move. That's how I feel.
He lost to Pacquiao. It wasn't the best Pacquiao. It wasn't the Pacquiao I promoted. The Pacquiao that beat Marquez. The Manny Pacquiao was finished. He went in the ring with Thurman and he whooped his ass. But I still lost money on Crawford, though.
All right, let's go, G.
You know what's funny, man? Maybe my inner Dillian's kicking in, because that whole time I was watching that video with Keith, I'm just thinking, you just got a haircut, but you still got a one-time eyebrow. You know what I mean? That was kind of crazy to me. I don't know. I was like, yo, I kept looking at it like, you just got a haircut, fam. Like, what's going on here? But yeah, but I like the fact that he was keeping it 100, because actually it's how you see it. Right now, you know, it's a real gamble to invest in pay-per-views with boxing, right? Because of the whole COVID situation. So I think what Bob's trying to do is just, you know, cut the cost down to widen the margins a little bit. You know what I mean? He's just like, hey, you know what? How about, you know, I just offer you $1 million. If he takes it, Bob just came up, you know? So, like, I can't knock him for trying, you know, but I'm assuming that, you know, Sean Porter's going to at least be like, all right, yo, Bob, you know, at least slide me off for 2. You know what I mean? And then we got to fight, you know, because it seems like Bob doesn't really want to, he doesn't really want to spend that much money on TC, right? And so if he could possibly get him for 2, I mean, Sean right now, what's he doing right now? He's not really doing anything. So, you know, $2 million right now might be cool, but 1, I think it's just too low. I really do think it's too low, and I'm hoping that Bob's going to reconsider and allow some form of a negotiation where he can get, you know, some, he'll feed him some more I'll be honest, I don't even know how well that pay-per-view will do. So, and that's why I was like, Keith was saying it sounds messed up, but he was kind of right. Like, bro, you've been at ESPN, and they haven't built you into a star yet. You know what I mean? That's kind of crazy. Like, that's the problem. Like even though like TC to the boxing world, TC's like that guy, but he's still not a household name. Casuals don't really know who he is, so it's really it's a major gamble to put a pay-per-view around a TC. TC has to have another pay-per-view star, or possibly. I think Keith Thurman would be a good look though, especially with the excitement behind the Thurman Pacquiao fight. I can understand, Thurman demanding more money, but I kind of felt like maybe you're asking for too much right now. And I understand he was like, yo, we're not giving out discounts, Bob. However, take at least 5. You know what I mean? Like, do something where it's like it's reasonable right now.
No, he said that.
No, he said that.
He said that.
And yeah, so as long as it's reasonable, make it happen, And if Bob's just like, I'm just not working with these PBC guys, then yo, TC, you should have already left, Top Rank ESPN. But once this year is up, if you stay at ESPN and Top Rank, I'm sorry, I gotta label you a ducker. That it has to be labeled a duck, because now it's like, bro, your promoter already openly disrespected you, saying I don't make no money off you. I take L's when I mess with you. Like he said something about a Beverly Hills home or something like, like I've lost, like I forgot what
he could have built a house in Beverly Hills with the money.
Exactly. The money that he lost on TC. Outrageous. So if you stay there, I have to you a ducker or a sucker. It's one or the other. It's one of the two. You gotta be real. We just gotta be real at this point, And I like
sucker.
I hope.
This is where you get permission to cross the street during traffic. You know what I'm saying? Like you ain't gonna get no jaywalking ticket. Take your ass across the street, fam, because this dude Bob is just too.
Better cross that street like the chickens on the other side. You know what I'm saying?
Man, it's just getting crazy, man. Bob's talking too spicy. Bob's talking about, yo, we ain't giving out no bread to no fighters at PBC. And you staying there like, yo, I ain't got no opponents. Cross the street.
All right, TBE.
Man, first, I agree with everything Thurman said. But to come into Bob's defense, when he says, I'm not going broke for TC, I think he actually went broke for TC. And this is just showing you he ain't got no more money to spend. and
he blew
and then after the Kell Brooks fight, when Bob was like, yo, we want the Spence, we want Spence, and then Thurman said otherwise, Bob looked at him and that was like, that's the payday. And Bob looked at him like Will Smith. He looked at TC like Will Smith did at his the dude who asked to borrow his last couple of dollars. Like, damn, yo, this is my last. I can't go no more. Like, I ain't got no more bread in my pockets after this. And then so Bob is
on his pursuit of happiness. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm saying when the Will Smith's boss asked for like, hey, let me borrow $20, and it was Will Smith's last. Bob looked at him like that, like, yo, this is my. Like,
I'm saying the movie you're talking about, Pursuit of Happiness, though, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to visualize, like, what? Okay.
Bob looked at TC like he wanted to cry, like, bro, we need this payday. Like, I can't afford to keep the lights on no more.
We're putting stickers in the middle of the
ring. So Bob is like, yo, we broke, we ain't got it no more. And TC is
that ain't lying, though. Did you see Bob's face though?
He didn't look at him. He didn't look at him.
His eyes got all watery.
Bob did the sell job.
He beat Earl Spence and Danny Garcia in the same night.
Right.
This man right here.
I want the Pacquiao fight.
Yeah.
You big dummy, you blowing it.
Right.
Bob's on his last cup of ramen noodles, man. So I understand the pain and frustration. He's at the bottom and he was looking for his come up, and now it's like it's almost over for him. So his pursuit of happiness is not looking well for him, for Bob over there right now. But TC, you gotta do what you gotta do for your career, man. And at this point, you're not getting it. He's 30. He's early 30s, 31, 32, I think. But
No,
TC
he's like 33, I think.
33. Well, TC, yo, you're right there. You're at the peak of your prime, yo. So man, make sure you make sure make the best fights for you right at this point, because it's not looking too good.
All right, Complex.
I'll kind of look at it from a business perspective. Bob Arum to me is a risk adverse investor, right? He doesn't like taking big risks. He wants to he likes the steady money, and he wants to, you know what I mean? He doesn't like to go for the big leagues. One of my favorite stories in boxing is when Floyd Mayweather, right? He was fighting somebody, but before the broadcast, they had a big picture outside the MGM Grand of Britney Spears. And Floyd told Bob, I want a picture of me on the MGM Grand, right? To promote me. Bob said, I'm not spending the money to do that, right? So Floyd was like, all right, I got to go because I believe I can be greater. I can be better. And later down the line, Floyd Mayweather had a big picture outside the MGM Grand of himself, right? So he brought that into existence. That's one of my favorite stories of Floyd Mayweather. And that just goes to show when you believe that you can do greater, sometimes you have to go out on your own. It's a business relationship between Bob Arum and Terrence Crawford. If your business partner isn't willing to put up the bread, then you can move on. You can leave. And I guess the deal is up this year or whatever the case may be, or buy yourself out or something. But you got to make that move, because $1 million for Sean Porter is disrespectful. $1 million for Keith Thurman is disrespectful. First off, we've already seen other guys get paid more. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense when they're higher ranked. That's number one. Number two, you have to spend some money. You have to spend money to make money, right? So yeah, you might take a loss, but if Terrence Crawford washes Sean Porter, if he gets in there and washes Keith Thurman, right, that's gonna build up the hype even more. So you get the money on the back end on the next deal. You know what I mean? In terms of as an investor, sometimes you take a loss in the first few years on a deal that it's gonna come back though. But if your business partner is not willing to do that, TC, then you got to keep it moving. I mean, Keith Thurman was absolutely right. Like, look, I get it. It's a pandemic, whatever, but you're offering us like crazy money, $1 million for a guy who Sean Porter was on a pay-per-view with Errol Spence that did supposedly some decent numbers, but anyways, better than whatever TC's done, right? So at least that's a guy who's been on the big stage. He's had a championship. That's something you can sell if you're willing to sell it. But if Bob's going to be so risk averse, then look, TC, keep it moving, right? And that's move on to other things. But this whole continuously talking is ridiculous. You know what I mean? For years now, we haven't seen some of these big fights. And I believe TC is the number one welterweight in the world. I believe he could beat all those guys, but we got to see it. And to see it, they do deserve to be compensated. Keith Thurman, before he lost to Pacquiao, was technically the guy. He had already beaten Sean Porter. He had already beaten Danny Garcia. He was the unified champion of the welterweight division. You can say he was the man, right? And even though he lost, he only has one loss, which was a split decision to Pacquiao. He still got some name power. And if Terrence Crawford could beat him in an impressive fashion, that looks even better. So you got to take those fights. You got to take those shots. So whatever the case may be, go to PBC or go on your own or whatever. But at this time, this relationship with Bob Arum and Top Rank is just not working out. You got to bet on yourself, TC. I'm telling you, bet on yourself, right? If you got to buy yourself out or do whatever, make that happen, because you have the potential to go even greater than where you're at now. But it's not going to happen if you stay in this relationship.
That's true, because Keith Thurman and Sean can make more money fighting each other again. You know what I'm saying?
Why would I leave PBC to go to Top Rank and fight on a Top Rank card when I can just stay at PBC and make more money? Right? Yeah. They're obviously happy at PBC making money. So, Bob, you gotta invest in this to make it bigger. But hey,
so there's a number of things. One, everybody, I'll just start off by saying this. Bob Arum, to me, is in a tough situation because he created this monster that's known as Terrence Crawford. And what I mean by that is Terrence Crawford fought on 2 pay-per-views and they did poorly. Like, at best, we'll say they generated 50 100,000 pay-per-view buys. 2 pay-per-views in total, 100,000 pay-per-view buys. I hear like the TC fans who hate Earl Spence saying that the Danny Garcia fight was a flop. Even if that was a flop, he still sold twice as many pay-per-views in one fight than Terrence Crawford has done in his entire career. But they don't look at it that way because they hate Earl Spence so much, because it became like kind of like Joshua and Wilder almost. People are picking a side and pointing fingers at who's ducking. For me, this isn't about that. For me, it's just simply looking at all the evidence I have from an objective standpoint and calling it out the way I see it. The same people will argue that Teofimo Lopez is an A-side, right, in a fight because he has all the belts over, say, like Tank Davis, right? But when Earl Spence has more belts, generates more pay-per-view buys, they still will say TC somehow should get more money. And it doesn't make any sense. So it's like, where's your logic? Just because you think he's better? The objective standards all roll with Earl Spence. Also, the fact that Earl Spence has more options. Earl Spence could fight Keith Thurman. Earl Spence could fight Manny Pacquiao. And guess what? If Manny Pacquiao goes on with his fight with Conor McGregor, you know what the WBA is going to do? They're going to order Udonis Ugas versus Earl Spence Jr. What are you going to say then if he gets 3 belts and your guy only has 1? You understand? So this is where we go to the leverage game. And the reason why all that's relevant, I bring all that up to build it up to a point, is Bob Arum doesn't want to pay Sean Porter. He doesn't want to pay Keith Thurman. So at what point do you give TC an opponent where he can build leverage for himself? Right? Because if Pacquiao goes the Conor McGregor route, the perfect opponent is Keith Thurman. The perfect opponent is Keith Thurman. 1 loss to the great Manny Pacquiao, who would be going the route of fighting Conor McGregor, so he's going to vacate the title. Ugas and Terrence Crawford, if they make that fight, no, but they said they're going to make Ugas versus Earl Spence. So if Terrence Crawford fights Keith Thurman and he beats Keith Thurman, it's the one PBC fighter he can beat at the welterweight division that Earl Spence hasn't. And Keith Thurman was once viewed as the guy in the welterweight division, like Complex said, until he lost to Manny Pacquiao. But Earl hasn't beaten him. Danny Garcia couldn't beat him, and Sean Porter couldn't beat him. So in beating Keith Thurman, TC would have in one fight done something that Sean Porter couldn't do, done something that Danny Garcia couldn't do. Only the great Manny Pacquiao has done it. And guess what? TC's beating a guy who's beaten Manny Pacquiao already. So he would have those arguments under his belt. But the issue is, you keep saying they want too much money. They want too much money. Sean Porter offering him $1 million, to me, that's a joke, especially when you pay Kell Brook $2, and Kell Brook couldn't even get his fight picked up in his own country on a major network. He fought on Premier Sports 1. And from all the people on our comment section that are from the UK said, what channel is that? That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. So what channel is that? So he couldn't even get his fight picked up in the UK. Here you got Sean Porter, like Complex said, fought on pay-per-view, fought in big-time fights on network television. The Leprechaun, my man, he wears some crazy suits, but Sean Porter gets in the ring, people watch his fights. I'm not saying that he's some major attraction. Like, you're not going to get a pay-per-view fight with Sean Porter, but you're going to get a fight that people want to see at least. People are going to know that Sean Porter is going to come to test them. But for me, the major thing when it comes to this is Keith Thurman, that's your fallback plan. If you can't get Manny Pacquiao, fall back on Keith. It's the guy you can beat who beat Danny Garcia. It's the guy who beat Sean Porter, only lost to Manny Pacquiao, and Earl Spence never fought him. But y'all sitting around here playing. Let's talk about Terrence Crawford's contract for a second. It was a bad investment. It was a bad investment because Bob Arum lost money. And you heard what Bob Arum said. I could have built a house in Beverly Hills with the money I've lost on Terrence Crawford. But let's talk about why he had to enter that bad investment with Terrence to keep him from going to PBC. If he went to PBC, there would have been an official stranglehold on the welterweight division. And credit to Bob Arum, he did the next best thing. He went and got the 140-pound division on lock, and he went and got the 135-pound division on lock with Vasily Lomachenko and Lopez. Although he doesn't have the biggest names in the division, he has the undisputed champion in the division, which was a smart move for him to make the fight. So now he's in control of the belts. He doesn't have the biggest star, Ryan, Javante, but he has the jewelry in that division. He has the jewelry in a 140-pound division. See, yep. And so when you look at the welterweight division, PBC has that. And he needed to prevent Terrence from going to PBC to save himself. See, he got that one guy who he's building up, saying that these guys can't beat him. But look at the contract. Bob Arum lost and loses money every time TC fights someone because he's in a bad contract. For the people who highlight how much TC makes per fight, do you know when this contract is up, he will not get another contract like that because he hasn't produced to earn that contract. So when you talk about like, oh, you know, Spence's leverage when Terrence Crawford makes such and such money for fight one, you don't really know if his checks say that because you don't know if he has to generate a certain amount of money to make a certain amount of money. You don't know all the conditions within the contract, but I can certainly tell you that he hasn't earned enough to keep that contract because his own manager come out and said he's been taking losses. So the numbers you're looking at Earl Spence, but Earl Spence generates profit. That's what gives Earl leverage. That's why other people look at Earl and say, I want to do business with Earl. That's why when you look at the WBA, they'll make Ugas fight Earl and not TC. Why? It makes more sense financially. That's why Canelo will be like, yo, I'll fight Earl Spence. He don't care about TC. That's why you're looking at it because of the leverage. So I'll close by just saying this. Bob Arum's in a very tough position because getting the Keith Thurman fight, getting the Sean Porter fight for Terrence Crawford will only enhance his career in a way that wouldn't make any sense for Bob Arum unless TC was going to re-up with Top Rank. If TC's not going to re-up with Top Rank, why would Bob Arum invest money in a fight with Keith Thurman? Why would he invest more money in a fight with Terrence Crawford? He's only making him bigger so that he can leave. So at this point, Bob Arum's probably looking at it like sign a contract extension or you can go get these fights on your own when our contract is up.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter, and also check out our podcast on all major streaming services. I'm Trill Dollar Bill. That's Caden. That's Slippery G, and that's Ned the TBE, along with our boxing cousin Complex. Thank you for rocking with us today. It's the Boxing Bros.